Now we turn to India. The country's daily COVID death has reached a record 2,600 on Saturday as the government battles to get oxygen supplies to hospitals. For the latest, let's cross live to our correspondent Ravinder Bawa in Delhi. Ravinder, it looks like India is not only facing the challenge of treating the ill, but also the dead. Tell us more about the dire situation.
Yes, absolutely, Pandang. With the number of deaths rising every day for the last few days, the numbers have remained above 2,000. And that is putting a lot of pressure on the crematoriums and the graveyards here in the capital city as well as in other parts of the country. These crematoriums outside, there are bodies lying. They are trying to expand their areas. They are trying to utilize whatever space that they have. And there are people who are waiting in queues. There is a shortage of firewood to cremate the bodies, and the situation in the crematoriums and the graveyards is really grim because the loved ones do not even get a last chance to bid a goodbye to the people who have died due to COVID-19 or shortage of oxygen. Shortage of oxygen has also been one of the reasons adding to the number of deaths. Let's have a look at this report to see what really is happening on the ground, Pandang.
It's a field of funeral pyres of those who have lost their battle against coronavirus. It's a mass cremation. No rituals, no emotional last goodbyes. As bodies pile up outside crematoriums in Delhi, makeshift arrangements are being made to accommodate more funerals.
They filled in that this used to be a parking space, and we broke the wall and make space for 24 pyres, and slowly it became 50. There are so many bodies coming, we are running out of wood. We bring 300 quintals of wood, and that is used very quickly, and then we bring another 300 quintals, and that is used too. The situation is very bad. If this continues, then in 4 or 5 days we will have to cremate bodies on the road. There is no other option.
In many hospitals, there are bodies lying unclaimed. Some families have refused to perform the last rites of a COVID-positive patient. In such cases, volunteers step in to help with funeral ceremonies.
When the families do not accept the bodies of COVID-19 patients, the hospitals hand over the bodies to us after completing a small police formality. When the bodies come to us, we inquire about his religion. And if the patient is a Hindu, we perform the funeral as per Hindu customs. And if the patient is a Muslim, we do the funeral accordingly.
Even the graveyards are running out of space, and the grave diggers are working overtime.
Even if it is night, we will try to finish the last burial for the day because no mortuaries will keep the body. So that is the reason we want to finish all the burials and then go home.
Looking at the number of bodies that are brought for funerals daily, some of the crematorium workers say that maybe India is undercounting the fatalities.
A dire situation there indeed. Ravinder, now let's talk a little bit more about the lack of oxygen in India. Has the country reached its limit on producing its own, and the only option now is turning to foreign countries?
Yes, absolutely. We've seen there was a major politics being played between different states and center over oxygen, but the reality on the ground is that the hospitals have run out of oxygen. Only yesterday, one of the major hospitals here, there were deaths of about 20 people because they ran out of oxygen despite raising an alarm with the government that they have oxygen just for a few hours. And that is exactly what's happening in many other parts as well. And the situation in the capital city, which is supposed to be the best medical which is supposed to have the best medical infrastructure, is actually crumbling. And the situation on the ground is that a lot of people are losing their lives because of shortage of oxygen. And now questions are being raised whether these deaths are being counted as COVID deaths or not. But definitely the situation is such that now the government has reached out to the governments of UAE and Singapore, from where high capacity tankers are being flown down to India. India has also will also be picking up around 23 oxygen making plants, mobile plants from Germany, which will be brought in and put in Indian Armed Forces services and Indian Army services in their hospitals, so that from there the oxygen can then be distributed to other parts of the country. So this is the situation that armed forces had to be called in to take stock, to take control, as well as the court has directed the governments that they really need to take this seriously and take major steps. So the noises were being made for past few days, but definitely when things went overboard, that the government stepped in, and that's a good sign that now probably in the next few days things should be in control. Panda.
Thank you very much and take care. Our correspondent Ravinder Bala in Delhi. For more insight, let's cross live to Dr. Vikas Bajpai in New Delhi. Doctor, now let's continue that discussion on the lack of oxygen. How serious is this a challenge for doctors working on the front line treating patients? Are there any options left?
Well, what options? If a patient is requiring high-speed oxygen and you run out of oxygen, there's no substitute. What do you do? I mean, as a doctor, it can be the most frustrating and experience of utter helplessness. And I mean, you see your patient dying in front of you, while if oxygen were available, if the supplies were arranged in time, then that person might as well be living. So it's a big disappointment for the doctors, and they can't help it really.
What about vaccinations? So when people are looking at those skyrocketing numbers in recent days, do you think the vaccination rollout is enough, or is vaccination there at all?
In the kind of situation we have at hand, vaccines unfortunately are not really going to do much to stem this tide, because I mean, for vaccination, you need a lot of advanced preparation. You needed to have enough of the stock of vaccines, and you needed to ensure that the vaccine reaches the last mile to every person who is to be vaccinated. Okay, whereas, I mean, as per the figures and facts that we have available with us, that did not seem to be the government's calculation at all. And it's not that, the government suddenly discovered that we are running out of vaccine and all. The government ought to know how many doses have been produced, how many doses have been exported, how many doses are there available with it, how many doses have been given to the various provinces or various states in the country. I mean, and the manner of government carelessness in this regard can be judged from the fact that of the 10 crore, that is 100 million dosage, which were distributed to the states, 44 lakh, I don't know, 44 lakh would be what, 4.4 million dosages, they were wasted. Because they could not be distributed in time because of the tardy distribution process. And many of the states, they have raised their hands that they have completely run out of vaccines. Moreover, just 2-3 days back, the corona vaccination policy, which the government has come out with, it has given a carte blanche to the private manufacturers for deciding the prices of the vaccines. And it is surprising that vaccine which is being made by Serum Institute of India in a private company based at Pune, vaccine made in India is going to cost nearly more than 2 to 4 times higher than the same vaccine being sold to European Union, will cost to them. So our vaccine in our own country is going to cost that much higher for the Indians. While the fact is that if government's concern is about controlling the pandemic, then vaccination, oxygens, and all manner of treatment at this moment should be provided irrespective of the ability of the individuals to pay for it. Because if that is not done, if getting treatment, getting relief becomes contingent to the paying capacity of individuals, then the entire country and we as a society are going to end up paying a lot heavier cost than what the virus by itself is capable of imposing on us.
So, Doctor, talking about virus, we have to mention this double mutant variant. Do you think the spread of this new variant will seriously worsen the already dire situation in India?
Well, if the available trends are any indication, then the situation is already worsened. And again, that is not something which was given in the way pandemics usually happen, because this double mutant virus was last discovered in October 2020. But then thereafter it was virtually ignored. India did not boost up its genetic sequencing and viral surveillance to the extent it ought to have boosted it. The funds that were allocated for genetic sequencing projects, even those funds were cut back. And now, it has been shown that this double mutant variant has been responsible for most of the breakthrough infections which have happened. These two genes, which have resulted in alteration in the spike protein of the virus, they have made it, they've made the vaccines ineffective against this particular variant. So that being the situation, and in cities like Delhi, in states like West Bengal and some other states, this virus, it was in Maharashtra also likewise, this virus constitutes the overwhelming proportion of viruses which have been isolated from the infected patients.
Thank you very much and take care. Dr. Vikas Bajpai in New Delhi.
Thank you.